Welcome to Creative Conversations. I'm Roger Humphrey. Richard Kefgen is an award-winning, highly respected wildlife and landscape photographer whose work has been featured in magazines and galleries throughout the United States. Please join us as he discusses remote shoots, teaching, and many other things. Before we begin, please click the subscribe or follow button and the like button. It's free and it's easy, and it helps out the channel a lot. Thank you. Computer. And we are welcoming Richard Kefgen to the show. Rick, thank you so much for coming on the program. I really appreciate it.
Yes, my pleasure, always, yes.
Good enough, good enough. So you and I have been friends for a long time, a long time. I know you as Rick, as a friend.
Yep.
I'm sure that those who are not friends have other nicknames for you. But
Well, on Facebook, I go by Richard Kefgen, but all my good buddies and friends, it's Rick.
So anyway, but all these years that I've known you, I knew you working in retail sales.
Right.
And I had no idea during that time that you were also involved in photography. You kind of kept that a secret.
Yeah, well, I did a little bit of photography for Marshall Music Company, actually.
Really?
MSBOA, every year we had our big school service banquet.
Uh-huh.
And I was a staff photographer for the company for that.
Okay.
And then also early on before we moved into the white building, when we were still over where Grinnell's used to be,
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
When we had the fleet of the Volkswagen Rabbits, Volkswagen came in and they did a big spread on us, and they brought a staff photographer from Volkswagen.
Right.
And they asked me to join as the company photographer. And in that article, they used only my photos.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That'll teach
chose
them.
mine over their staff photographer. So I was feeling pretty good about that back then. So, I had that an article and photos published in their Volkswagen Worldwide magazine too. So that was kind of cool. So yeah, I've been doing it a long time.
Yeah, but it's new to me, and I was really impressed. I mean, now largely you're known primarily as a wildlife photographer. Is that right?
Wildlife and landscape.
Okay.
Primarily. Now, back in the day, back during the film days, so now I'm dating myself a little bit, back in the mid 70s, I did work for the Orvis company, and they're a pretty high priced, high caliber sporting goods company.
Oh.
So they do like fly rods and fly tying materials and that stuff. And my wife and I were doing part-time fly tying for them. And I sent them some photos of some flies that I had tied. And they said, they came back and they said, who did you hire to do the macro photography? And I said, oh, I have a studio and I do, these were all done by myself. And anyhow, so they had me doing work for their catalogs, taking macro shots of their itsy bitsy little flies for trout.
Oh,
And
cool.
so that made that, again, that was back in the mid 70s. And that made their catalog. And then also they did a couple of year, I think they did a quarterly newspaper. And so then I had a lot of shots in there for that too. They used that. And then I started traveling around with the fly fishing companies and teaching their fly fishing schools and fly casting clinics and fly tying schools. And so I started bringing my camera along, and some of these places that I'd be out to would be like Yellowstone and Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, just beautiful places and private waters. So I started bringing my camera and taking photos of that action. And then I started putting on slideshows for that. So I did a lot of work during film. I used to take mostly Ektachrome slides, and I would send them off to these various companies that would develop the slides and then edit them the way I wanted them done. Like if there was a light pole, I'd ask them to remove the light pole in that shot and the high voltage wires in that shot and that kind of stuff. And they could do that dodging and burning and that kind of editing for me. And so what would happen is I would be out on a shoot, take the images, put them in a mailer, send them off to the photo lab. By the time I got back into home state of Michigan and home again, they were at the doorstep, and my wife had already thrown them into a carousel for me.
Oh,
So
how
I
cool is
edited
that?
from that and made up verbiage and had a slideshow made up. So then I was traveling around putting on slideshows for Federation of Fly Fishermen, Trout Unlimited, various sporting groups,
Okay.
and also for like the equivalent of our DNR, depending upon the state,
All right. Okay.
that kind of stuff. So I was enjoying that. That was a lot of fun too. But then the things changed. Film was dying out, digital was coming in, and as the film died out, so did the labs that I was using.
Right.
And as digital came in, it was really bad. It was just really not good stuff to work with as a photographer. So I got kind of fed up with the whole thing and shelved it.
Uh-huh.
I just kind of got out of it, siliconed everything up, and put the silica gel in there to absorb moisture. And then I just put it aside. And then out of a fluke, about 7 years ago now, I think, my wife got me a digital camera for Christmas,
Okay.
and she thought I would enjoy just going out and casually shooting again. And she said, "Oh, and you'll like it too because now there's this a company called Adobe, and they have Lightroom and Photoshop, and you can do your own editing and stuff. So you don't have to send away film and all that and wait for it to come back." So I thought, well, that might be cool. So I went out and take some shots, and I enjoyed it. I actually took that camera and ran right down to the camera shop where she got it and traded it in on a Proline camera, and knew
Uh-huh.
this was going to be another hobby again for me. And so I did. I took a lot of photos, and then she says, "Okay, now you can post those on Facebook, and that'll get you into social media." And she introduced me to all this stuff. So I started doing it, and pretty soon I was getting contacted by a lot of people to be Facebook friends who were photographers. And that number ran up to about, well, just a little under 5,000 Facebook friends who were
Wow.
following my photography. And then I got notified from the Olympus Camera Company that they would like me to be a brand ambassador for them. And we talked and worked that all out.
Now,
And
what
that
does that
involved me
what
going to as a brand ambassador, my duties were to go to camera shops, brick and mortar camera shops,
uh-huh.
stand behind the counter and explain the Olympus cameras to the customers and sell them. And I would do that, and I enjoyed that very much. And then another company called Vanguard, and they're very big worldwide. They have 3 manufacturing plants throughout the world, and we manufacture all of our own products entirely. 2
Oh,
divisions, one is photography, the other is outdoor division. And
okay.
in the photography division, they do their own glass for spotting scopes, binoculars.
Wow.
Yeah, they do. We manufacture our own clothing. We manufacture our own backpacks and every kind of camera bag you can imagine. Tripods and several models of them. I think we're probably up to 15 models of tripods somewhere
Wow.
in there. And that company happened to be headquartered right over here at Whittemore Prescott or Whitmore Lake. I'm sorry,
Okay.
over by Ann Arbor.
Right.
And so they asked me to come down there and talk with them. And so they made me one of 10 uh, 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 professional photographers for the Vanguard. And there's 10 of us approximately. Now there's a little bit more than that now, but at the time there was about 10 of us, and we covered 40 countries
Wow.
between the 10 photographers. So we're busy. We really were for Vanguard, quite busy. Um, and again, as a brand ambassador for them, I would also do teaching for them too. So we would,
Okay.
do workshops and photo walks and that kind of thing. And I enjoy that immensely. And then I'm also a brand ambassador for the number one filter company in the world for photography, which is H&Y Magnetic Filters. So I do teaching for them also and put on workshops, that kind of stuff. Um, but between the companies and all that, I've got just a ton of photography equipment. So it's been a great fun. It really has been. And so what I do now is I'll go out and do a photo shoot, and then I'll list the equipment that I used, like the Vanguard equipment or the Olympus equipment or whatever, um, with the posting of some of those images from that shoot on Facebook.
Cool.
So you can kind of follow along on a weekly basis or whatever my photo shoots. And sometimes I'll do 2 photo shoots a week. So sometimes, there's a lot of posting that goes on with that.
Uh-huh.
And I've been doing that for a number of years. And you don't have to be a Facebook friend to look at my stuff. It's just under my name, Richard Kefgen, Kefgen.
Okay, I'll put a link in
And
it.
it's open to the public. So that
Right.
Facebook thing is not just friends and family or anything. This
Right.
is,
Yeah. They have professional pages as well.
yeah.
Right?
And I have people that follow me worldwide. So that's good fun. So I've made friends, and I actually have Facebook friends that I met through Facebook
Sure.
that we go out and do photo shoots and stuff together and do travels.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, that's a lot of fun.
That sounds like it.
And when I'm in the United States to shoot, I have a van that's a nice big stand-up inside transit van that's all set up with all the accoutrements that you'd need to go out camping, and I have 2 electronic generators, battery generators that are solar powered and power off my van, or I can plug them in to charge them. I have 2 of those, and then I have 2 internal batteries that operate the camper, and then one that's a deep cycle that operates if I want to plug in 110 and all that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
So I'm set up so I can be self-sufficient for about 5 days in the field.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's, and I have the solar shoulder screens and all that kind of stuff too. So it's great fun. It doesn't matter where it's at. I'll go do it. And I've spent a lot of nights on the shores of Lake Superior with the camper there all by myself, and good fun.
It sounds like that's a long way away from working retail indoors.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I worked retail indoors for I believe about 9 years, but for 18 years or something like that. I was there 31 years. But for the most part, I was out on the road. I didn't work in the store much. I was in the store maybe 20 minutes every day.
Right.
But I worked with high school and college band directors in the school service department.
Then you retired and got a new job.
Then I retired to this, to being a photographer. But then I also played, I played multiple instruments and played in bands all the time that I knew you. You probably didn't even know that. But I played in the classic rock and roll country band that was booked out of Nashville. And then I played in a 18-piece jazz band that are the U of M professors of music.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was great fun because all we did is we read it off the charts. We never had any rehearsals or anything. We just played the music right off the charts for the gig. They would send me an email that says, "Be here," and they give me an address at this time, and then they listed all the different numbers of the various pieces, and I would pull them out of this box that had about 500 tunes in it and compile them, and then we put them on the music stand in the order we were going to play them, and played, and it was great fun. And they used me a lot in that band when they were playing Carlos Santana tunes, and because I could play those, So anyhow, it was good fun. And my brother-in-law was in that band too, so I would take my wife and on the gigs and play with him, and his wife would be there, so it was just a party. Good times.
Yeah, I did not know that. I did not know that. Of course, when you and I sat down to talk, we usually just talk shop or told bad jokes.
Told bad jokes mostly. That's all I remember is just telling all the bad jokes. And we had a few.
More than a few. More than a
few.
So
yeah. Yeah.
But
so I'm getting ready now. I'm planning. I've just come off about a year and a half illness, and I'm back to the point where probably within 30 days, I'm going to be on the road again, hitting it heavy. And I've got my first trip planned. I've already been out for 3 shoots, just kind of checking things out and getting back into the groove and seeing how the legs are going to work for these things. And so I shot at Grand Haven with a buddy of mine. We shot a sunset at Grand Haven.
Okay.
All right, no, we did it at Muskegon. We went to Grand Haven, decided that it was better to go to Muskegon because of the conditions, and shot there for that night. And then there's a train that's operated out of Owasso. The Steam Railroaders Institute does this every year, and it's the Northern Express or the Polar Express.
Uh-huh.
It's the number 1225 steam engine train, and it's an actual big,
Oh,
huge
I've seen it.
steam engine. Yeah, and I've done 2 shoots of that during December when it was
Cool.
running. So I know I've done my test runs now, and my legs work fine, and everything's raring to go, and the camera equipment's all brought up to speed. Everything's charged up and ready to go. So I'll be leaving, and I'll be doing 4 days in the Smoky Mountains.
Okay.
I'll do one day where I'll shoot from the mountaintops and do the long vistas,
Uh-huh.
and I'll do a day where I do just waterfalls, and
Wow.
then a day where I'll do just rivers, and then I'll do a day where I'll be doing Cades Cove and shooting wildlife, hopefully bears. That's what I go there for that time of the
I was
year.
gonna say, you've done bears before, haven't you?
I have, yeah, and I love doing it. The last bear adventure I had was in Cades Cove, and we found 2 sows that one had 3 cubs and one had 2 cubs. And they just came out of hibernation, and I followed them for about an hour and a half, and they paid me pretty much no mind at all. So I got really good close-up shots of all of them together.
Wow.
I took, I think it was close to 2,000 photos during that hour and a half of the bears.
Wow.
Great fun, just
Wow.
great fun.
Yeah, I would think. So how long
Yeah.
does it take you to prepare for something like that?
Um, well, you better be prepared when you get there.
Oh,
so
gotcha.
so by being prepared, you're going to have the right gear with you. So the right lenses all
Uh-huh.
set up and put together, because these are going to be telephoto lenses, long lenses for the
Okay. Yeah.
bears. But yeah, you're using certain lenses for the vistas. You might use a lens that is a wide lens, might be a 7 millimeter to 12 millimeter, and then you might use a zoom and zoom in on just a certain portion of the mountain range,
Okay.
where you're getting a layering effect of the various mountains as they stand behind each other,
Gotcha.
with
Uh-huh.
the blue smoky, you know,
Yeah,
in between them, that kind of thing.
that's cool.
So in your mind, you know what you're going to need for the shots you're going to see. And I've been doing this for a number of years, so I know exactly what to bring. It's all
Uh-huh.
set up, just ready to be packed up and go. So I'll do this. So I'll do Cades Cove, leave the Smokies, head for Asheville, North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
And Asheville has something like 100 and something waterfalls within a 38-mile circumference around Asheville. I
Wow.
mean, it's incredible. So I'll shoot waterfalls there.
Okay.
And then I'll go and spend probably 2 days in Asheville shooting waterfalls. And then I'm going to go over to the Blue Ridge Mountains, and they have the Blue Ridge Parkway, which is
Uh-huh.
465 miles of 45-mile-an-hour mountaintop roads.
Oh.
They have these pullouts, so you don't have to do any hiking or anything. You just pull right out, grab your camera, and you've got a beautiful vista to shoot. And so
Ooh.
I'll probably spend 3 to 4 days there shooting
Okay.
that 465-mile strip. I just love that area. It's just
Yeah.
so much fun. They have tunnels that are just where they've dynamited under the rock and through the rock,
Uh-huh.
natural tunnels. It took them 50 years to build this Blue Ridge Parkway.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, it was a big undertaking, huge undertaking, quite a history there. So then I'll do that, and then I'll head straight for South Carolina, where I have a cousin that's on a lake down there, and I'll visit with her for, oh, I don't know, a few days to however long she'll let me be there before she tires of me. And then I have a buddy that he and I have done a lot of shooting here in Michigan together. He used to live in Michigan, and he's moved down to Charleston, and he's invited me to come down and stay with him for a while too. So I'll be using the camper all the way down there and staying in the camper with a few hotel rooms to get into the showers and that kind of stuff too. Um, and then primarily staying with those folks. And then it's a 17-hour drive back. I'll beeline it back. I could be gone anywhere from 2 weeks to a month on this trip. So that'll be a long, good trip. When I get down to Charleston, South Carolina, Rob and I are going to be shooting the rookeries for the very large birds that migrate in and set up their nests down there in the south. And some of these rookeries have boardwalks, and that's what we'll be shooting from, the boardwalks. And so he likes to do that, and I'm a wildlife shooter. I love to do that. So that's why I go down there every spring about that time, is that's when the birds are on the rookery.
Ah,
So that kind of decides my timing to go down there a little bit. So I'm flexible until I get indications that the birds are coming in on the rookery, and then I'll start working my way down.
gotcha.
And then we'll probably go maybe into Georgia and shoot a little bit around Savannah and that kind of thing. Just we're just open and we play it by ear, depending upon what's the best thing to do at that time. And once I'm down to my last day or so down there, then I'll head back and I'll drive. Probably it'll be a 2-day shot through because it's like 17 hours, something like that. And I'll be pretty much worn out by the time that happens, anyhow. And then that'll be my first big road trip of the season.
How many days?
Um, could be up to 30.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So
So
you're out there.
that could be a long trip.
Now, where do you find a home for these photographs? I mean, do you have magazines that are publishing or?
Well, sometimes they end up at galleries.
Cool.
I had right now the company that does my printing for me had a gallery in their shop, and they were going to run a big gallery for me. And all my gallery prints were hanging in a gallery, and then COVID came along and messed up everything. It actually it hurt the gallery so bad it closed the gallery down.
Oh
Uh,
my.
so I gathered up all my prints, took them over to where my printer is, and they were going to put them in their gallery. And then they said it's not worth doing because we're going to take them all down and we're going to do a gallery show featuring your work and having a meet the artist, meet the photographer kind of a thing. But they were kind of messed up because they still hadn't recovered and recuperated from
Sure.
COVID
Right.
because they couldn't get any large groups together. It was during all that time. So we just packed all the gallery prints up and stuff, and they put them in their storage, which keeps the humidity's proper for keeping prints and all that kind of stuff. And then they called and said that they have joined forces with our local camera shop here in Lansing, and so they're half owners now of that shop. So we'll see. Maybe we're going to end up doing another gallery show. But I've got about 60 prints. Some are great big, huge metal prints and so forth for that, and then others are little matte framed and matted prints, and others are just matted prints. But yeah, so oftentimes that's where they sell. I don't sell anything online, just through the galleries. Um,
I was wondering, it sounds like, of course, not like I know anything. So as an outsider looking in, it sounds like it would be perfect material for like a coffee table book or something like that.
yes, my wife has been after me to possibly do something like that. We just did something this year that was my first time doing it. I was invited to join a group of pretty good photographers, pretty elite photographers, to put together a calendar,
Oh, okay.
and we did that. And let's see, I could show you.
Is that online?
It is. You can see that my page anyhow on my Facebook. If you
Okay.
just go to Richard Kefgen.
I'll do that. I'll do that. I
Yeah,
can,
yeah,
so,
because you can see a lot better than me holding it up to the little camera there.
right. Yeah. Okay, cool.
But so that was fun to put that together. So, and he says he'll be doing it again next year. I'll see if I get invited back again. That'll tell the tale.
Some of the artists that I've known over the years have made a pretty good living out of the little things like that, like calendars and
Yep.
little prints that they do for like, you know,
Yeah.
I mean,
A lot of my friends have websites where they sell their prints and so forth.
right.
And then they also have there's companies like if I wanted to do it and not have to mess with anything, um, they have companies that you send the images to, and they put up the whole
Oh,
nine
okay.
yards.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Now, the thing that I liked about in the galleries is that if a customer walks into the gallery and points to that picture and wants it, they have a copy a file already of
Okay.
that image.
Uh-huh.
They go ahead and they order it, they frame it, they do the whole nine yards. Customer comes to them, they pay them, they pick it up there, they send me a check.
That's nice.
That's nice. So yeah, that's the thing is I'm not stuck at home mailing off a bunch of stuff. So
Right.
yeah,
So yeah, it's I think the business of art, no matter what you're doing, is interesting, but it's the hidden part, the parts that you don't know about, when you're a
it's the behind the
consumer.
scenes always. Yeah, I
When
have a lot of friends that during the summertime will have a little tent and sell their art in the tents and stuff at the art fairs.
uh-huh.
Yeah,
Right. So yeah, and I have one of the artists that appeared on the show. She has her website, and then she also has an Etsy page, and or Etsy site, I guess, and so she sells that way. But it's that background stuff that trying to get everything, um, get it out to the people. There are people out there that would like that stuff, and they would
yeah.
like to, and they're willing to pay for it. They're willing,
And I
they'd like
know
to own
I
it.
get contacted all the time for that. Now, here's stuff that's behind the scenes that I really do enjoy, besides just going out and doing the photography. Um, my buddy that's moved down to Charleston, Rob Shipman, you could look him up too on Facebook. He's quite a photographer. He's my assistant when I teach, and he's
Okay.
quite good. And we did a thing in Chicago in 2019, just before COVID hit. It was called ClickCon, and click for the camera click,
Sure.
con for the convention.
Right.
So it was a photography convention. And we had something like 1,800 students come from all over the world to
Wow.
attend this. And I was one of a group of photographers that was a teacher, a presenter there.
Uh-huh.
And that was great fun because out of the 1,800 students, I had 160 of them sign up for 4 of my classes.
Oh, cool.
And so I went around downtown Chicago at night with a microphone and a little amplifier and speaker on my belt and had 60 students with me. And we walked to downtown Chicago and we sat down and everybody would, listen to what I have to say about what we're going to do. And then we'd take a certain shot. And then I'd sit down and they'd all come through with their camera and on the back of the camera. And we talk about what they did, maybe how they could look at something just a little bit different with keeping that in mind, what we just discussed, go do it again. And
Right.
then, so the whole 60 would file through. Then they would retake their shots and come back and we'd look at them a second time and see if they were happy or not happy with what they did with the changes that we talked about. And we did that for 2 hours in each one of the classes. And then one of the classes, I had 3 gentlemen there that live in Chicago and they're photographers. And so they came up and invited both Rob and myself to join them and do an all night shoot of downtown Chicago. And they would take us to all of their favorite places.
Oh, how cool is that?
Yeah, it was great fun. So we were up all night and never did go to bed. And then we all went out to breakfast the next morning. It was daylight by the time we were done. So anyhow, that's the part of it. And it's the teaching part that I enjoy the most. It's to have someone say, Rick, here's what I'm doing with the camera. Here's the results I'm getting. What's going on? And I'll say, okay, it's this and it's this. And we're going to change this setting a little bit. And then this should help with your composition. Keep this in mind a little bit because there's a few rules to go by, and every one of them are meant to be broken, but only occasionally. So here's what you want to do, and let's try that. And then they come back and they're just thrilled because now they're getting the results that they were looking to get all along, and that does your heart good as an instructor. You
Oh
would
yeah.
know because you're a good instructor, and I know for guitar because I've heard you play enough. I know how good an instrumentalist you are
Thank
and
you.
good teacher because everybody loves you that comes out. Well, there was a few that were giving you the bird, I think, as they were, but we don't want to go there. But anyhow, so that's a lot of satisfaction. And so I really enjoy the teaching times that I have. Yeah.
So when you're teaching, I mean, I don't know how to phrase this question properly, but one of the things that you have to teach is composition, and I have to believe to a certain extent creativity, how to look at something and say, okay, you can take it this way, and it's kind of boring, and if you tweak it this way. So how do you get your inspiration for that kind of thing, for the creativity?
Well, the first thing I tell them is stand straight up tall and look through it and see that view you're getting. Don't take that shot because that's a snapshot. That's the
Right.
view that everybody sees, and they look at it. And, oh yeah, it's a nice. Oh yeah, chop the kid's head off there a little bit, but that's okay. So I say, look, get down on your knee and shoot up, or get a ladder, or get up on your car a little bit, or climb a tree, or whatever you have to do
Right.
to change that angle. So it's not boring, and it's not what we see with our eyes all day long. So there's certain rules
Okay.
that you can break them, but only on occasion and get away with it. There's rules of third, which means if you've got like a shoreline, instead of putting the shoreline right so that the sky uh, dissects the water and the water dissects the beach and everything is centered, you don't want that. You might want a third of shoreline and a third of water and then a third of sky.
Gotcha.
That's what the human eye likes to see.
Uh-huh.
Or you might have something that's a leading line going out, maybe a hose that just wanders through the sand, takes you to the water. Something that your eye can follow along to get to the subject that you want them to see. You're in control. You're the one that, depending upon what you give them to look at, determines where their eye goes to in the photo. And if you have an area that's down here, that's where the action is, that's where the interest is, that's where you want them to see it.
Uh-huh.
You might start with a line that goes down that looks like the maybe the Great Wall of China, leading to that, leading
Okay.
their eye along that to get them to where what you want them to see. And you might take the screen and you might just take and divide it by a third down here, 2/3 up here, and you could have your subject matter here or you could have your subject matter here, but never straight across, never straight across, so that you're getting 50-50. So there's certain rules, and then there's many, 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 many more rules than that, but those are a few to start with. Put it this way, if you use the rule of thirds on 2/3 of your photos, you're doing a good job. That's a great place to start. And
Gotcha.
your photos will automatically have some interest there because the human eye is drawn to that. So people are going to like it.
Well, I think telling the story is it's what we all try to do with our own personal art. Is there's
Yeah,
always
and
a story to tell,
composition
right?
is all in the eye of the beholder.
Right.
You know, you
So
can look at something and see something completely different than what I saw.
that's true.
Or you could take a composition, and I might take a shot of it that's only about that big of the composition. You might have this whole thing. Neither one of them are right or wrong,
Just a
but it's
different
what
point of view.
your eye likes to see, and it depends upon what my eye likes to see. And then what happens is over the years, you'll develop a bit of a style. You become a little stylistic because now your compositions are starting to look similar. Your eyes, that's what's pleasing to you. So
Right.
you kind of shoot that way. And especially in editing, like Rob, he's brilliant at doing editing in Photoshop. And it's not because he takes stuff out of the picture or adds it in, which was what most Photoshop people do and use
Right.
that for. But his is that he takes the subject matter, and it might be a flower garden over here, but the main interest is this plant over here. He gets
Uh,
that crisp, 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 and then softens up in a very pleasing manner that makes sense, the background.
gotcha.
So your eye is just, boom, it's drawn to that. And it's so soft and so pleasant that it looks very painterly.
Oh, cool.
He's just got a great eye for that. And that's his style. And boy, I'll tell you what, when he posts an image in Facebook, you look at it and you instantly know that's Rob Shipman. You just know it. And that's pretty cool. And oftentimes you'll get a following of fans that follow your work and like your work because they like that style that you do,
Uh-huh.
or the way that you edit, or whatever it might be. There's something there. It could be how heavy or how light you saturate your colors. So maybe they're very pastel looking, very light, or maybe they're just jump right off the page at you and oversaturated. A lot of people really enjoy oversaturation. I happen to like a little more saturation than a lot of photographers do. And so I get called up on it all the time, and I just laugh because my people like it. So there you go. You don't have to like it.
So,
And there are times when I take very light pastel photos. Evidently, they never see those.
do you ever work in black and white?
Yes, I do. Um, I do. I have done a whole series on Michigan barns, old barns,
Uh-huh.
almost dilapidated, almost falling down barns, all the
Okay.
way up to multi-million-dollar beautiful barns.
Uh-huh.
And usually I'll do a portion of them in black and white. Yes,
Oh, cool.
yeah,
So,
and especially the interiors.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
That makes sense. So,
and
now
they're great fun.
how does like drone technology affect you? Is it any impact on you or your work?
It hasn't on me because I've just not developed an interest for it.
Uh-huh.
It has changed things from. I got a buddy of mine's got his private pilot's license, and
Okay.
he's flown all the way up to Alaska with his plane.
Okay.
And he invited to take me up on a aerial photography flight. And I said, the flight will be fine. I think I'd rather spend my time this is a guy that I went to high school with.
Okay.
So we're longtime
Uh-huh.
friends and stuff, and we're still friends on Facebook and stuff. And I said, I think I'd rather just chat with you and see the sights of flying up there, because anything I can do from your plane now can be captured from the drone for the most part,
Right.
unless we're going quite high and you're shooting, and then you
Sure.
don't get much anyhow. But yeah, the drone has changed the game. It really has. But there's been a lot of people get in trouble with the drones because if you don't abide by the FAA rules, you can spend some jail time. So
Well, I know they've been getting pretty I say rigorous about some of these rules, and
all they
but
do,
but only because the drone operators themselves were so rude and so sloppy and so dangerous at times that
yeah.
they
But
had to
they've
clamp
changed
down.
things too in areas that they really didn't have to. Like a lot of the state parks and stuff, you can't have drones. So they made it so that a lot of the areas you would like to shoot, you
Can't
can't
use a
do it
drone
there.
anyway. Okay.
Yeah, but it makes no sense because some like shoreline Lake Michigan stuff, some of the parks you can, some of the parks you can't. Now I can see it if it's close to an airport,
Right.
within 5 miles of the airport, you can't shoot with a drone.
Right.
But a lot of, so it's just, you got to know the rules. And one of the guys that I do a lot of shooting with has gotten big time into the drone and went and took it and got his FAA approval for drones. So
Oh.
he passed the test as a professional photographer in the whole 9 yards. But there's a lot to know. He had to go take classes and study the books. And it's beyond what I want to do at this point.
Well, I mean, I've seen your work, and your work is astonishing. It's really
Oh, thank
gorgeous
you.
work. So yeah, I'm
Thank you.
kind of. Now I'm going to steal a couple of your images offline, and I'll include them in the
Yeah.
program too.
Yeah.
So,
Grab any of them that you'd like.
but
That's not a problem.
I'm going to plan on doing that. But Richard Kefgen, thank you so much for spending time with me today.
Well, Roger, my pleasure.
So I'm looking forward to getting this out there pretty soon, and we'll talk to you soon. See you later.
Sounds good. Sounds
Bye-bye.
good. Good seeing you.
You too. Bye-bye. I want to thank Rick for coming on the show, and I want to thank you too for taking the time to listen. Also, if you or someone you know plays guitar or ukulele, there are some free things on my resources tab and video tips tab at rogerhumphrey.com. You don't have to sign in or subscribe, although that would be pretty cool. Just drop in, look around, take what you want, and leave. I'll never know that you were there. Thanks again for stopping by, and I look forward to seeing you again real soon on Creative Conversations with Roger Humphrey.